pay face to make that happen. But in fact, actually, I've found that storage on both YouTube and Facebook to be totally reliable anyway.
Right.
So hey, don't need the storage on StreamYard. Okay, so good morning, everybody, and welcome to Talking Niagara. What a weekend, eh, Mike?
Yeah, happy Monday, Niagara.
So, first bit of news. LCBO strike ends today and the stores will be back open tomorrow.
Yeah, that's a good thing. I seen on Saturday they were telling each other that they were bargaining in bad faith, and then they came to conclusions on Sunday. So that's good. That's good they went back, because when they were blaming each other for bargaining in bad faith, I thought they weren't going back to the bargaining table.
Well, when you hear words like that, not taking any sides, but when you hear words like that coming out of any side of any negotiation, you kind of going, well, okay, we're set for a long strike.
Yeah, you don't want to hear those words. Bargaining in bad faith.
No, we don't want to hear those
words picked very carefully, right?
Yeah. It would be better to say, well, we've made some progress and we're still hopeful more can be made tomorrow. That would have been a much better, words, wouldn't it?
Yeah, I'm really happy they hammered that out, because I thought after hearing that they were out for a long time.
Yeah. Well, it was there was a lot in it, and part of this was actually about these new what do you call them? These new spritz, these new drinks, already made. What do you call them?
Pre-mixed.
Yeah, pre-mixed liquors, right? Don't know. I think it's a trend that I don't like to see in alcohol. But hey, I suppose it's here to stay. And what's worse about them, it's just you're drinking them just like a Coke.
Yeah, and I still fear it's going to be more accessible to kids this way, and
that's what I fear about it. Yeah, they look like a Coke can except taller.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm really glad that this strike is over, because Ford basically was union busting big time by allowing the stores to sell while they're bargaining. That kind of takes away all your bargaining power, right? So I'm glad.
I went to get a beer on Saturday, and there's nothing in the store. I'm like, momentarily I'd forgotten all about the strike, and I went, "What the heck have they done to me? They've taken away my favorite beer." And then I realized, oh yeah, the strike.
Yeah, so when I'm reading it, at least they got some security for the workers that were part-time, right? And that was one of their major gripes, because they put a lot of people part-time and just let it drag on, right? And never give them the full-time status or full benefits. So I was glad to see they made some progress.
Well, actually, if a part-time worker, you see, there's a difference between a part-time worker and a seasonal worker, right? Because a seasonal worker only gets a job for, let's say Christmas, the month or so, 6 weeks before Christmas. They have no security in that job. That is it. Once they've finished after the Christmas rush, hey, bye-bye, have a great day, right? A part-time worker should be seen as, should have their status recognized. They should be fully on, because they're working there. They're part-time they're working part-time because they don't they can't do full-time usually. They're like mums who've got children at school and things like that.
Yeah, and those part-time workers still work weekly.
Yeah.
So they're there all the time like a full-time worker. So they deserve the benefits or partial benefits or whatnot, right?
Yeah, exactly. They deserve, well, and when it comes to medical, they deserve those type of benefits as well.
Yes.
anything like that that's kind of not done right, you kind of always makes me wonder, you know.
Yeah, and they got an 8% raise, so that was okay. You know, usually you only get 6%, right?
Well, that was a bit more than expected.
Yes, yes. So I'm glad they're moving forward. That's good because I thought they were going to be stuck, and I thought they were really going to union bust. And I'm glad that management negotiated in good faith.
So probably whoever made this statement on Saturday wasn't at the, you know, I hazard a guess that whoever said they were a million miles from a solution on Saturday was kind of fired from the negotiations on the Sunday.
Oh, well, they said that the management came back with a lot of changes. So there. Let's face it. You know, we know when you go into bargaining, there's Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, right?
Yeah.
They got all their different numbers. They got all their different ways figured out. Management tries to hammer out the least they could give you, but if they can't succeed at that, they got a Plan B and they got a Plan C, and they got it in writing. So
yeah.
That's good that everything worked out because I really thought it was going to be a nasty one.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't like to see strikes because everybody loses in a strike.
Always, you never get your money back.
Yeah,
you never really win. The relationship gets shattered, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's hard to build it back up. You can't just the next day forget about everything that was done and said, right?
No, and especially when let's say people cross the picket line or something and bad words were said.
Whew, then you really got a really sticky workforce working together then, eh?
Oh yeah. And you know that really doesn't help anybody, does it? You know.
No. No, so I'm glad they weren't out long, and I'm really surprised that they hammered out the deal after hearing Saturday's results, and management's Plan B worked.
Or Plan C or Plan D or whatever, whichever one.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think often what happens with those meetings is the two parties leave, and there's this kind of glare by the head man in each of the parties that we're staying, you know, we're in our room in the hotel. We're going to be dealing with this until we hammer it out, right?
Oh,
nobody's going to bed. We're going to come up with another solution.
Yeah, I've seen management come back to the negotiating table and their hair all over the place from getting screamed at and yelled at by the big boss, and coming back with their hair all over the place, just looking at us. Please, we got to do this. This guy's freaking out, right?
Well, probably the same with union negotiators, right?
Oh yeah,
probably the union presidents having a go at them as there was, this point here was a good point. You should have taken it, right?
Yeah, I've seen some pretty funny things in negotiations with management and the big boss yelling at them, expecting results, and when they're not getting it, they really get hammered out.
Yeah, and we know that many bosses don't like unions, but one of the things you get about unions, at least one of the things that happens with unions, is you negotiate kind of one block salary, one block of salary for pretty well everybody. Whereas if you have to go around 500 people to individually negotiate, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people, even though they don't like unions, a lot of management people say without a union, organization is a lot worse. So
well, I've been manager in a non-union place, and basically the situation is there that what would happen is you would actually have you'd have a review, everybody would have a review at negotiation, at times at the time. And then what would happen is you take your reviews and you'd review it with HR or somebody else and look at who you felt needed to actually have, increases, and you had flexibility. So whilst you might get, say, 3% across the board, there's nothing stopping you from giving Mary 3.2%.
No, I've been in union and non-union shops, and when I've been in the non-union shop, some guys get bigger raises, and management gives them a little wink and tells them to keep quiet, right?
Yeah.
It's very sneaky sometimes the way they do things, and the people that go along with them to take their raises is very sneaky. It should be more in the open so people understand who's getting what, because it's your workplace.
But again, often those ones that have been given the extra raises, like 10% while everybody else is getting 3%, usually those people have either done extra to earn that 10%, or they're working in a more senior job, or they were on a preliminary wage beforehand. It's the only time I've ever seen it done.
Yeah, you're right. People, some people are foremen without being foremen, right?
Yeah.
Do go above and beyond and do extra. And those people get the sneaky raises, right?
Well, and the guy who comes in, the computer operator who comes in and works till midnight because the system failed.
Yeah.
All right. He just literally turns up one night. He's got home for 6 o'clock. And he's literally turned around. We've all gotten the call, and I've been there because I've been the manager, and the other guy's gotten the call, and he said, "No, you can go home. I've got it covered." Right?
Yeah. And the worst is when the bootlicks get it, right? When the guys that don't do any extra work but are bootlicks and they get the raise. That's when you get the sticky stuff, right? That's when problems happen in a non-union shop.
I don't like bootlicks.
Yeah, we used to call them boots.
I know, but you see, from the management position, you talk about people and who does a good job, etc. And who they are. And, there are certain people, as I say, like the guy who came in, he'd just gotten home. The message popped up on his phone because it's automated. And he turned right around and came straight back in and said, "I'm fixing the server. Don't need to worry about it."
Yeah.
Right. That guy, he deserves it.
Yeah. There are some that deserve it. And then there are some that don't. Right.
Yeah.
And those that don't are the ones that really, really cause a rift in the whole factory.
But again, in a union shop, those that don't deserve it still go and get their 5% or whatever the raise is, right?
Well, everybody will get the same raise in a union shop. Yeah. You aren't going to get very many people that'll get a higher raise than everybody else, right? And that's the difference.
Yeah. It still doesn't mean that you still got those people in the shop that don't actually deserve, they don't even deserve to be working there, but you can't fire them.
Yeah, you have that too. And I believe health and safety in a union shop is much more powerful. That's the only reason I really believe in a union is because of health and safety.
Well, I'd say most of the places I've ever worked have been real strong on health and safety. But then again, even though the offices in British Airways, for example, were not unionized, the people in the airlines were unionized. So the cabin crew, the pilots, etc., were unionized. But health and safety, that's probably the strongest health and safety place I have ever worked at.
Yeah, I would think any kind of airport or place has to have health and safety to be the strongest thing.
You see, what would happen there is they'd look around, the chair of the meeting would look around the room and say, "Okay, new person in the room. The fire safety protocol is this." Map it out and say the emergency stairs are, down that corridor to the right, and take the left at the end, and you'll by the way, so even if the new, they just because there's a new person in the room, right, and they would always, they'd often, even like once a month, remind everybody of safety protocol, right? And that's we know how airlines do it, do it up there, showing everybody, the aisles and that sort of thing, the lights and everything like that, and how to put your life jacket on.
Yeah, all except for Boeing, right?
Well, Boeing are not an airline. They just supply the planes, mate.
Yeah, they're the scariest ones in the whole bunch, and that's frightening.
All right. Anyway, yeah. So I hope that kind of gets itself sorted out, and that we have, we may. Well, are we going to get liquor by Tuesday? Probably not.
Yeah, let's see. Like, are the grocery stores already stocked up, and will they be stocked up before the liquor stores?
As I said yesterday, there was none.
Yeah.
Saturday there was none.
I didn't think they'd be really highly organized on it. The government was talking a big talk just to try and get that union and them to negotiate quicker, I think, which is smart. But I don't think they were organized to roll it right over.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So moving on. Hey, that was quite a weekend for the Democrats. Biden steps down, and he's actually backing Kamala Harris as the new presidential nominee. And from everything that I've seen right now, it looks like many of the Democrats are actually supporting that push.
Do you imagine living in the United States right now with those two leaders running and trying to figure out what to do? I'd just be petrified.
Actually, the interesting thing is about it. How long ago was it that Trump got shot?
A week and a half ago.
Yeah. So, and in that week and a half, he's got a 1.5% lead. Right. An assassination attempt traditionally would get a leader somewhere in between 5 and 10% leap in the polls, albeit temporary. He's got, it was as if everybody kind of went, "Oh, that sounds fake."
It did too, didn't it? I mean,
yeah.
How do you miss that fat head? I still can't figure out how you missed that fat head.
Was that why he was wearing this white stuff on the ear, because it got whopped in the ear or something?
Yeah, the whole thing doesn't seem real, because how do you get hit in the ear and not in the head? It's the whole thing just didn't seem real, did it?
Yeah, no, and that whole question about the assassinate, so he's back out on the campaign trail since again slinging mud. We'll get to that in a while, but I noticed that so Biden basically, Biden's statement upon dropping out is that actually it was fairly weak, I thought. It was like almost a thank you letter to the American public. We've made great strides together. Not a mention about what an ass he's been over Israel.
Yeah, Joe Biden is like I said the other day, like the old sports guy that doesn't want to retire, and then when he does retire, he's retiring on a bad note, right?
Yeah,
because he hung on too long. Joe ran for president. How many times did Joe Biden run for president and didn't make it? And then he finally got to president, and he did a pretty good job considering how much turmoil he had to deal with. But let's face it, he's had his day. It's time to retire. His thinking process is not very fast. You can see he looks like a deer in the headlights every time he's up there. And it's about time he handed the baton to Kamala Harris and let her go, see what she does. I believe she'll talk circles around Donald Trump.
Well, okay. So then Kamala Harris, interested that, if she ends up being the choice, here's the question about it. It would be the first mixed. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't be. It would be the first mixed race female and first female to be president if she actually won the nomination and won out. So that would be a unique first. Now, the question then was going to be question about who was going to be her VP nominees. And a couple of names that I've heard was Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, and the third one being Michelle Obama.
Oh, that would be an interesting twist, wouldn't it?
And Michelle Obama has apparently said that she would be happy to stand if she were asked.
Wow.
Not that she intends to get into politics, not like, unlike Clinton's wife, who said right from the outset she was going to get into politics. But if she was forced to, she would do it.
Well, I'm glad Joe Biden stepped aside, and
he should have done it a couple of months ago, though.
Yeah, and I don't understand how they could even have had one debate when neither man was the true candidate yet. That was just a waste of time.
Yeah.
Not a waste of time though, because it got rid of Joe Biden, right? So
yeah, but again, the Democrats have to make their choice. They essentially have to make their choice this week.
Yes, they don't have time to have an election to try and figure out who else could run. They don't have time for this because Joe took too long to step aside. So I think they're going to have to go with Kamala Harris. And wow, would Michelle Obama be a wicked addition to that, eh?
Well, I'm interested also in what Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer. Then that would be a double female plate.
Yeah, can you imagine all the rich white men in Niagara? I mean, in the United States right now, and they must be flipping just with one person of color that's running for president. It's going to be crazy to watch, and I really hope that Kamala Harris has what it takes to put Trump away, because Canada is going to be in a world of trouble if Trump gets on for another 4 years.
Well, I'm intrigued by the fact that I'm actually, what's going to intrigue me is there a point where he's going to come out with some form of racist slur?
I don't think so. I think he's going to walk a real fine line. I'll be back 1 minute.
Yeah, and that's the thing that kind of gets me, because I think Harris is actually, she's proven as a time as prosecutor in California that she's actually a hard on crime, right? So you can't get her as being soft on crime at all anywhere. She will probably kill him on crime, right?
I don't think Trump is going to have what it takes to argue with a woman and hold his tongue.
Well, yeah. Well, I think she's going to appear to be hard on crime. Yeah. Right. The outsider, also another one, is Bernie Sanders.
He's too far left, I think. I think he's just a little too far left for everybody.
Well, I think 2016 was his shot.
Yeah, I like him, but he's too bold. He's too bold. His ideas are too bold. They're too big of changes for the United States. And he's again, how old is Bernie now? He's got to be in his
80s as well.
At least 77, 78. Again, it's an age factor. If Kamala Harris runs, she's really going to have that age argument way over Trump too, eh? So.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It would be very interesting to watch. Now you can't say, you know, slow Joe or anything like that. You got a young person in there with some wit, and it should be interesting to watch how Trump could handle her.
I actually suspect he's not going to be able to handle her,
I don't think
but
so.
it may well be. You see, the vote may well not be about whether, you know, it may not be about who's the better candidate, Harris or Trump. The vote might well still be about, you know,
Anyone but.
yeah, right. And here you may actually have the argument anyone but Harris and anyone but Trump.
Yeah, and if you're voting
wins?
if you're voting for the lesser of two evils, I really think that's not the way anybody should have to vote.
Agreed.
That's the worst. So if there's only two people in there and everybody's saying it's the lesser of two evils, then you got to get someone else in, right? Like, I don't believe in the two-party system. I think it's displaying what the problems are with it.
Yep. Oh yeah.
And I think huge change has to be made in that kind of situation that they're in, because the two parties that are running right now, if neither one seems to be running for the country, what do you do as a person that lives there?
Yeah. Yeah.
A harsh situation to be in. And the lesser of two evils is not the way that I want to vote, but we're going to be in the same way in Canada. Who do we vote for a leader, right?
Well, and the question is JT going to stand down at some point?
Yeah, let's see if he does the same thing Biden does and hangs on too long and then hands down the reins, right? Like right now, people are saying they don't want Trudeau no matter what. I think Trudeau should start listening to that, because look at what Joe's done to his country by hanging on too long. Yeah. I think he's made this election a lot harder than it has to be now, because he took so long.
Yeah. So Harris is looking at seeking the Democratic nomination. She hasn't announced who the potential vice president candidate would be. But I think, you know, I think we've she's got to figure all that out. You know, I don't expect her to have the answer by yesterday, but she's got to figure that out this week, right?
Yeah, I don't think she's going to do it till the later part of the week, because she's still got to deal with her having to take over as president, let alone figure out another vice president, right?
I know she doesn't take over as president. I think he still continues on it.
Yes. But this is what Trump's saying now, that if Biden's not fit to run for president at the next election, then he's not fit to be president right now. That's the arguments the Republicans are coming up with right now.
That's an interesting argument, and I wouldn't, you know, and yeah, okay. That's, and I get it. I understand what you're saying. So basically, he's saying that Kamala Harris should go into the Oval Office.
He's trying to force the election to come early while they're unorganized and in a mess, right?
Yeah. No, so honestly, we've never. These are historic times. We've never seen this before, right? This has never happened before, you know, in American history.
No, and it's very scary. I don't know what's going to happen in the USA, but I think that this election is going to be a very frightening one.
It's, you know, it is going to be a very frightening one, and I still think it's too close to call. I've called every election since I've been in my mid-20s, 6 months out, and been right. This one, I haven't a clue who's going to win, even with the change. But one of the thoughts that I do have is typically the Republicans are, you know, typically the Republicans are actually supposed to be the party that's hard on law and order, that clamps down on crime. But as a former prosecutor, I think Harris has got that cornered.
Yeah, I don't know. The Republicans are a mess right now. I can't even fathom another 4 years of Trump. But if there is another 4 years of Trump, I think Canada's going to be in serious trouble.
Yeah. I was also doing another review at the weekend, and I was thinking so I started looking at where Britain was with the new Labour government, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, so what are their policies? What are they going to do? Right? What's Labour's policies, and what are they going to do? And I came to this sudden realization over the weekend that, hey, I don't think they're proposing to do anything.
Yeah.
This is kind of an odd election that they just won a landslide victory on an election where they're kind of going, well, we're not going to do anything. We're not rocking the boat.
Yeah, I think that if Trump gets in, he's already talked about tariffs, and we're going to get nailed.
Yeah, I think we've got kind of an interesting change in political wave across the world right now. Tariffs are not going to be good. Even I think Trump doesn't like Canada even now.
Yeah,
and and we could get nailed. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm afraid of it. I'm fearing for Canada big time, because what are we going to do? We can't do anything against the softwood lumber that we've lost. We've won in court 5 times. We've won 5 times in court against BC softwood argument, and the United States still continues to tariff our softwood through the nose. So what are we going to do if Trump wins and he tariffs everything? And we got our American-Canada Free Trade Act, and it's just going to get thrown out the window.
Well, Alicia Mary said there should be tariffs and Canada should implement them too. I'm 100% opposed to tariffs. I think tariffs cause nothing but bad blood in trade. I think we need to open the world markets and stop tariffs.
Yeah, but we got tariffs within our own provinces.
That's crazy as well.
Which I find is crazy. How could we be?
Why should I pay more to get something from Quebec or from Alberta, right?
Yeah, I never understood that. One country, one mind. We shouldn't be tariffing in between provinces. There's some United States places that we are closer partners than Alberta is because of certain tariffs and stuff, right? So how do you get tariffs between provinces? That's just a crazy thing. And then, if the United States does it to Canada, it'll decimate us. We're already having a rough go after COVID, trying to rebound in the markets, let alone let the United States elect Trump, and then we're going to get tariffed through the nose.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go.
And then it didn't take Trump long to start being divisive again, eh? Because he went into the Republican convention, and he was talking about unity after the assassination attempt, and then his next podium, he was divisive all over again.
Trump van, yes. Text Michigan to 88022. Yeah, well.
So yeah, it didn't take him long to get back to normal.
And I see no ear patch this time.
The ear patch isn't there. I didn't see any hole or any scar in his ear either. So I don't know. Was it fake news?
that actually is the kind of, because the other thing about it is, hey, you haven't heard of the tale of this guy being a lone nut, etc., etc., gone on a strange journey. He's supposed to have one time been a Democrat, now a Republican. So there's got to be a nutcase story out there somewhere. This whole question, I mean, the nutcase story of all nutcase stories had to have been Kennedy's assassin, so-called assassin. Not that I believe that J.R.B. Oswald did it in the first place anyway.
Yeah. And I don't understand how Trump is holding on to so much. Like, the people, 50% of Americans are still supporting this man. This country is in huge trouble. I mean, I can't imagine having a leader like that in Canada and living here and having to put up with it.
Yeah. Okay, I received a mail from the UK Independent by this journey, and I get these regularly from the Independent, and basically he said, I predicted US civil war in 2020, but it feels closer than that. Right? Haven't read the article. I just noted the thing in the inbox this morning.
Well, I think they're on the brink. I mean, I've been saying it for about 5 years too, and I think they're really on the brink. I mean, it's very sensitive, right? What happens if Kamala Harris gets elected? What will all the people for that vote for Trump do next, right? Are they going to have another insurrection, or are they going to?
That's an interesting.
Accept the results of the election.
That's an interesting question, because that whole question about had Trump just basically said, okay, I lost the election, I'll be back in 4 years, I think most people would have gone, okay, right, that's the reasonable man's approach, right?
Right.
You
handing over.
You accept gratefully
power. Yes.
Yeah, you hand over, and he wasn't even there at the at Biden's swearing in, was he?
No.
And
at that time he was refusing to admit that the results were real. Yeah.
And that is actually the thing that bugs me. You see, for example, when he won in 2016, the Democrats gracefully accepted that he'd won. Obama was there to shake his hand as the outgoing leader, as protocol demands, and all of that sort of thing is something that was, there's a lot of protocol. No US president has ever missed that in the past, right?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the thing about Donald Trump, right? He's unorthodox, and he does what he wants, and he does things way out of the ordinary and does not care.
I don't mind unorthodox in a way, because what I like about unorthodox is that sometimes unorthodox people think differently to the vast majority of people. But there's unorthodox and there's unorthodox, right?
There's unorthodox and obnoxious, and then there's unorthodox and polite, right? Trump has that obnoxious part of him, and that arrogant part of him that rubs people the wrong way, right? And he doesn't care about that. He thinks that's his strength, right?
Yeah, and that's the point that, okay, so a lot of, there are certainly people in America that think that's what makes him great.
Mm-hmm. 50% of them, actually.
Well, and they've got their right to their viewpoint, and no matter who may well disagree. One of the things, for example, you remember, of course, Toronto former mayor Rob Ford, when he was mayor. I thought the way he, it wasn't about what he said, it was about the way he said it. That was what rubbed me up the wrong way.
Right.
And if you've got a person who says something and says it in the right way, I'm more or less going to, I'm prepared to say, yeah, I support that. But the person who says something that I might support, who says it in the wrong way, I'm walking away, and like I'm not so sure that I can support you.
Yeah, words matter, right? And the way you present those words matter. And Trump is crude and straight to the point, right? He doesn't pussyfoot around. He doesn't soft speak anything. And some people like that. Some people do not. And like you said, he might be making the right point, but he's just making it the wrong way.
Yes.
And that was a lot. A lot of people agreed with a lot of Trump's policies, but they just didn't agree with the way he came up with them, right?
Yeah. You see, for example, I do agree that going to North Korea was a good idea. He had to try, it was something nobody else had ever tried. It was a necessity. It was something we should have tried and had failed over many, many years, right? But he went there, it didn't work. But I applaud him for having tried.
Yeah, but his methods are strange, right?
Yeah.
He tries to bluff by overpowering statements and stuff like that, and then he walks them back afterwards to try and negotiate a better deal. Well, that works sometimes, but that doesn't work all the time. And if you make people angry, they walk away instead of negotiating the second part, right?
Yeah.
And when you're dealing with other countries, there's sensitivities and cultural things that you have to respect. And Trump doesn't have that in him. So it makes it a difficult situation, even though he might be right on some of the issues that he's bringing up. He doesn't present properly, and he doesn't present in a polite way. Therefore, sometimes it doesn't go over well.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem.
Big part of the problem, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of, so you got any thoughts about how that election's going to go?
No, it's a 50-50 shot. And, I'm hoping Trump does not get reelected, because I think Canada's going to pay a huge price for it. And if he does get reelected, I think that civil war is going to happen within 4 years.
Well, one of the things that in my mind, as I've said earlier on, it's too close to call from my viewpoint. One of the things that I think it will bring up in my mind is the fact that I think you need in America, you certainly in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, I think you need change to occur. I think in the Senate, there probably needs to be more than 100 senators. There needs to be, some recognition of the fact that the US has grown. And in the Congress, again, the same. You've got, whereas here we have one representative going to Parliament who represents 100,000 people. Some of the people who go to Congress are representing like 10 million people, and others are representing 200,000 people. How's that fair?
Yeah. Can you imagine Marjorie Taylor Greene representing you?
It's just the oddest thing out there that we've got.
Have a good day, babe.
That we've got these kind of massive differences in that.
Yes. And and frightening, right?
Yeah, yeah. And you know, how can you live with that? You need, for every North Dakota, there's the population of North Dakota versus the population of New York or California, minuscule, but I get it that every state has to be represented.
Right.
Right. But in the Senate, one state for North Dakota, one seat for North Dakota, whereas you might have, 6 or 7 seats for New York or 6 or 7 seats for California.
Yes. You look at New York and California are almost a country within a country, right?
Yeah.
The populations are huge.
And that's part of the reason why you need some form of reformation of that lot. You need more representatives to be more on a more on the same principle basis. Like we have our MPs voted to Parliament, approximately 1 per 100,000 people.
Yeah, and that's I think a good representation, right?
Yeah, it's the same in UK. It's the same, okay, so it's not so easy to do that in relation to where there has been proportional representation. But again, even in proportional representation countries, it works out, even though there's regional PR sorts out how many seats there are for each party. It works out to be about 1 per 100,000 people.
Yeah, and I like that. I think that's the way to do it. I don't think the United States has been showing lately that their political system is working very well. They have so many people in power that are corrupt that it's starting to stink, right? It's starting to smell bad. And when you guys,
it's not as if we don't have our problems, though.
Yeah, but their problems trickle down to become our problems. We rely on the United States too much.
All right. So Alicia Mary says that the US has grown because of open borders. Yeah. Thing is, even closing the borders isn't going to stem the tide of migration.
Look at our migration problems. We have the same problem. I mean,
same in UK, right?
Quebec is an open border, right? And people are walking across there from the States like crazy. Alberta is pretty well an open border, and people walk right across the plains, right? So we got the same problem here. It's just not noted as much because there's not as many coming here, right? A lot of people are coming here to get into the States too, right? So
yeah, oh yeah, exactly. What is happening is, it's kind of, what's happening is we do get people who come into Canada, even though the refugee stuff is supposed to be that you're supposed to use the first safe country to claim refugee status. They come here on a tourist visa and then go into the United States for claim, on a refugee status.
Yeah, and that's a problem in Canada too. If somebody's coming from the United States to come to Canada, how can they claim that they're in trouble in the United States, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's happening a lot.
That's happened a lot. Yeah.
So it doesn't make sense to say you're trying to escape the United States to come to Canada because you're in political danger.
Well, no, the issue, I think what they're actually saying is that, hey, with changes in the US, I'm under threat to be sent back to my native whatever country, and that if I am sent back to my native whatever country, that's where I'm going to be facing my trouble, right? Therefore, I want asylum from Canada.
Yeah, and the question would be, why didn't they accept you in the US, right?
Yeah. Interesting question. Yeah.
And that's our problem, right? When we have people that are migrating and they're coming through the United States border, it's a pretty hard argument for them to win, right?
Yeah. Okay, so here we go with a sale looming in for Marineland. John Law made a final trip around the park, synonymous with Niagara Falls for more than 60 years. So this is the St. Catharines Standard reporter, and he was saying the first thing you notice about Marineland is eerie silence. The metal clank of the roller coaster, the parade of kids at the souvenir store, the buzz of the crowd at Waldorf Stadium, all echoes from past visits. But make no mistake, the Marineland you grew up with is gone.
Yeah, and I don't know why they haven't transferred over to just amusement park and maybe a big water park. Something
That's
like
what
that.
I think.
And if you make a water park, you could make that an ice rink in the winter and have a winter park too.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they don't go in that direction and get rid of all the animals, because the animals are what's causing the problem. I don't know about you, but I haven't been to Marineland in decade, maybe two decades.
I've never been to Marineland.
All right. Last time I went there was when my daughter was like 5 years old, right? She's 33 now.
Yeah.
I just never liked the captivity of whales and dolphins and things like that. And you can't justify that in my mind. Whale could travel 100 miles in a day, and here they are in a little tank, right? So
yeah.
I could never get that justification through my head. So I don't understand how they expect all the other people to do that, especially through the decades, advertisements on the killer whales being captured and everything. You would think that there would have been changes long ago.
Yeah, they should have opened the park up. They should have been transferring the park over to like a Canada's Wonderland, a ride zone.
Yes.
We need that.
Yeah, I heard a long time ago Disney and Canada's Wonderland were interested in this. I don't see how any big park owner wouldn't be interested in this, considering how many people come to Niagara Falls every year. It will not be a failure.
No, it would not be a failure. It would cost a few million to, you could open it right now, open all the rides that you previously had, right? And make it and start to add new rides easily.
Yeah. And don't forget, Marineland owns a whole lot of extra property on top of just
that it does.
part. Yeah. And so there is room for expansion if anybody ever said we needed more room. So I don't know why, Canada's Wonderland or Disney hasn't done it yet. I heard Disney required 50,000 room capacity. I don't know what Niagara Falls is at, but we have to be pretty close by now.
I would think we're pretty close.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with all the sky rises here.
But again, if they put Disney up there, do you think Disney would go without it having its own hotels for another 5,000?
Yeah, I believe that if Disney did that, they would build their own hotels for sure.
And for example, if they took over that land and took over the campsite, there's another few thousand there.
You got the campsite, you got Oakland's golf course, you got a whole bunch of stuff that's still available there, really. So I would love to see somebody take it over and transform it into an amusement park and get rid of those animals.
Well, we need something like an amusement park. To let this close down is absolute disaster for us, for Niagara Falls.
Yeah, right? and I think in Niagara Falls they need that amusement park.
We need that amusement park.
You go through a couple things for the tourism in a few days, and then you're dead, right? You got nothing left to do.
Yeah,
I think that amusement park is at least one extra day of fun, maybe even two, right? So
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And the point being is that, you know, think of it through the eyes of a kid. You take the kid down to the waterfalls and they go, and they look at it and go, "Hey, Dad, is that it?"
Yeah, water falling over a cliff. Okay.
You know, as we get older, when we're in our 20s and 30s and things, we go, "Wow, that's pretty damn fascinating." And it is.
Yes.
It's a very I could sit there. I could sit there all day and watch the water go over the waterfall.
Yeah, it's
Right?
mesmerizing.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
beautiful,
Yeah,
and nothing like it in the world, right? So,
yeah, and
but like you said, a child will look at it, and in 10 minutes, that's enough, right?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
You know,
you
hey,
go
Dad.
down, you go down to the Wax Museum and a couple other things. You go to the treetop for the Niagara Parks Commission, and then what, right? And if you
Yeah,
had a day,
well, you go up. Clifton Hill. There's you know, there's the remainder of your day,
yeah,
right? And maybe you do the go-karts or not, right? And that's another, you know, that takes you into the evening. Then a quick meal at Boston Pizza or wherever, you know, and then you're off then you're in the car home, right? We need people to stay, and that's kind of what we need. You know, we need to make like the wine tours more visible. We need to make tours of the area more visible. We need historical tourism to be put up there. We need Marineland to be Canada's Wonderland #2.
yeah, and I think historical tourism is lost in this city when you got a lot of history that you could
We
ride.
do.
I also think that the Marineland was long overdue to be upgraded as an amusement park. Um, they even their rides today should be upgraded and they should get new ones in. Uh, I don't understand why that wasn't turned into the major attraction. Seeing all the protests that have been happening over the decades, you knew what direction people wanted to go. I don't know why Marineland didn't change that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. So, you know, we need you know, it needs rides, it needs thrills, and that's essentially where the direction you need to take with Marineland.
Yeah, and I really think a water park changed into a winter park would be a good thing to do too, because we need a skating rink in Niagara Falls in the winter. We don't seem to have any. You know, it's pretty hard to keep ice sometimes in our winters the way they are, but we don't really have a big skating rink outdoors for people to go to. I think if you opened up a water park and then used it as a skating ring in the winter, that gives you something to do in the winter too.
And you know, okay, so apparently, according to John Law, the Sky Screamer drop ride isn't even open.
I haven't heard it operating at all. No.
Yeah, and that's fundamental to Marineland.
Yeah, I could usually hear it from my house, and it hasn't been running at all.
Okay, okay. Didn't know that you could hear it that far, but okay, fair.
You can hear the people sometimes when they're screaming and having fun. The odd time you could hear it.
Yeah, when the wind is in the right direction.
Yeah, and once in a while you'll hear that ride in particular when it's going.
Yeah, no, you could hear it. You could certainly hear that ride if you're going past the place.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's a fundamental part of Marineland, isn't it? You know, for that
Yeah,
to be
and
closed.
I haven't heard or seen it. I haven't heard or seen it in operation, and I don't know if Marineland is doing anything at all this year. Are they even operating? Because I haven't seen very much happening.
Yeah. Well, Deer Park at Marineland is closed. Where Kiska was is closed. King Wolf's, you know, where you know, a lot of the places are closed. Why would you pay to go there? Right.
Yeah, that's the whole thing that I can't see right now.
Well,
And
actually, and the ticket prices are $14.95. They used to be last year they were $49 or something.
yeah, yeah, I really didn't see their purpose of operating this year. And you would think they put more urgency on trying to get rid of the place if they're not going to operate it properly.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, I think we need an amusement park. The last thing we need to be doing is approving housing developments for this area.
Yeah, I really hope Niagara doesn't go in that direction for Marineland.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
don't need the extra housing. We already got more houses that were required. So I hope they keep the amusement park idea, and I hope they get a buyer soon.
yeah. And the thing is that, you know, $14.95. He said 14. Okay, even at $14.95, just $14.95, this felt underwhelming. So in other words, he felt ripped off for his $14.95.
Right. That's pretty sad, eh?
Yeah, very sad. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Mr. Law. You know, I know that you're kind of one, you don't pull the punches when you've got a view like this, right?
Yeah, and you shouldn't.
Yeah.
They've lowered the price to $14.95, and even that's not worth it. Then what are the tourists in Niagara Falls going to say this year?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, they go there and pay the $14.95 and walk out discouraged. It's not going to be good advertisement for this region.
And the one thing is about this is that, you know, when I was a kid, when I were in England, one of the things about England is the Marineland ads are actually fundamental part of Come to Canada, you know, come to Niagara Falls, Canada, Marineland, etc., is all about, it was all about the how to go, you know, where to come in Canada. Was the number one spot in Canada to come was Marineland and
Game
Niagara
Farm.
Falls, right?
Marineland and Game Farm, it was called.
Yeah. Well, I don't know they went into that detail, but they're basically, you know, the Everyone Loves Marineland song.
Yes. Yeah.
Right. They diverted it a little bit to Everyone Loves Marineland, Everyone Loves Canada.
Now, my wife always used to sing, "Everyone loves Marineland, but the animals."
Well, you know, so this was the world's biggest advert for Canada, and now it's dead.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. And you would think for them being so popular that they would have strived for an amusement park that would be world class, so that they could keep the engine running, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We need an amusement park there. No housing, not housing, no to housing, you know, yes to an amusement park. We got to find something. We got to find something that is, this is tourist land. It's got to stay tourist land.
You would think there'd be a buyer out there for it. I don't think it's going to be a failure. I think that any kind of big amusement park there will run very well.
Yeah. And you got to put a few million into it, but hey, every venture that's going to be a success is starts with investing money, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Any investors in Niagara Falls? Come on, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, we need this to continue on. We need something, you know, hey, let's get that screamer up and going. Let's get what's happened to all of the you know, all of the all of the existing rides. Why aren't they going?
You would think that all the big hotel owners in the city would maybe even pool in their money and invest, because it's going to help them in the long run, right?
I would think so. Yeah, I would think so. And probably Disney's right. Why would they come here unless we've got 50,000 hotel rooms?
Yeah.
But then again, this would be a mini Disney, not a big Disney. Because if you go to any of the Disneyland resorts, they are massive.
Yes.
You know, they're bigger than Niagara Falls, full stop.
They're very big. Take 2-3 days to go through everything.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely.
And that would be nice if they had that here.
No, we don't really need that here. What we just need is an active, a park that is going to be, be vibrant and bring, and be a reason to stay in Niagara Falls.
Well, if you look at the gold mine they had Marine Land and Game Farm. They also owned Oakland's golf course and King Waldorf campground. Yeah. They could have set up something really good with all three of them, with golf, marine land, and camping. And that could have been a huge selling point. And instead, they've got it all closed and they're arguing to put real estate there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's all real estate, but we shouldn't be. That's something we shouldn't be looking. We shouldn't be looking at housing. We should be looking at replacing this with another park.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
It's because without it, essentially our tourism sector dies.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think it's doing too good this year.
Yeah. I don't see any way out. There might well be record numbers coming this year, but for what?
Oh, will they come back? You know?
Yeah.
With that much less to do, will they come back? And that's the hardest part of tourism in Niagara Falls, is trying to get people to come back, right?
Yeah. Well, especially since for years, the only thing that, for years, the city has taken the approach of, allowing our resorts to rip off, to have a rip off attitude and don't care about tourism. We all know that it costs more to go to tourist town. Doesn't matter where you go in the world. You go to tourist town, you spend a few more dollars. It's expected. The prices are higher. You get a $10 meal costs you $15, but you're prepared to pay that, right?
Yeah, you don't want to be called a tourist trap. Tourist trap is the worst thing to be called, but we've changed into that, haven't we?
Oh, and we are world's #1 tourist trap.
Yeah, and I feel, if you build an amusement park for people that is world class, that tourist trap thing starts to disappear as long as it's a good price and gives you something to do, right?
Yeah.
And the more you get like that and get rid of that tourist trap reputation, that's what you want, so people will come back again, right?
Yeah.
I think they went the wrong way and they have to bring it back.
Yeah. We need people who want to come here and want to stay in a bed and breakfast, want to stay in a hotel, want to stay in the campground, and will want to come back year after year after year.
Yes. Yeah, right? and to get that you have to have the proper attractions and quit being overpriced on everything.
Yeah.
The gouging's got to stop.
The gouging's got to stop. Yeah, absolutely. The gouging's got to stop. And when it comes down to, you stay in a hotel and, so it costs you, I don't know what the prices are, but for every $100 you pay like $3 in resort tax, $2 in municipal accommodation tax, and then also there's the kind of Niagara Falls nice to be here tax type thing,
And then your parking fee on top of that.
Yeah. and then a $20 parking fee on top of that. No wonder people feel ripped off,
Well, I really think the hotel gouging is part of the biggest problem in Niagara Falls, where you have, like you said, you have 3 or 4 different fees and taxes, and all of them are used for advertising. So like all these fees are double dipping, right? Double charging you for everything, sometimes triple and quadruple charging you for something, and it's getting old really fast, right? To be able to change the hotel rooms from day to day again is another big problem. One day the hotel room is $150, and then the next day it's $250. to be able to change those prices like that is another big problem in Niagara Falls, and that kind of gouging is really driving people away instead of bringing them back.
Yeah, well, you actually need, you need actually hotel rooms for every class of people.
Yes.
Right. And that's even where, and I know you hate this, but that's even where things like bed and breakfast and Airbnb come into play, because they actually do fulfill certain part of that equation.
Yeah, bed and breakfast, I'm all for. Airbnb, I'm not. But yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Right. Well, you see, the thing is that, for example, the guy whose children have just gone off to university, who's got a room spare in his house, who puts it up on Airbnb, I got no issue with that, right? What you have the issue with is the vacation rentals, because it's the people who are profiting out of vacation rentals at the expense of normal long-term rental accommodation.
Yeah. Yep, that's
and
my beef.
In a city like this, that is always a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, and it drives up the prices of real estate, right? And then me and you cannot bid against a corporation for a house. So
yeah, and in fact, actually, that's another aspect. Corporations shouldn't be permitted to own houses that way.
Yeah, and so it's a snowball thing, and a tourist area, it's causing housing to go through the roof. I mean, Florida and Hawaii are examples of where we're going.
Yeah, all right, and I think we're going to have to leave it and call it quits at this particular time. Have I got any
over
more?
time again, Peter.
Right. You can only see beluga whales and dolphins. There's nothing else open, right? That's all you can see. So that's why it's $15. Okay.
Right.
Okay. So a friend's son works there, and apparently there's a big splash. No food or drinks available to buy. A few belugas and dolphins. Yeah. Okay.
Sad state.
So, I get why he's saying basically, 14.90. He felt ripped off at $14.99.
Yeah, it's a sad state, and it sure is putting a dent in tourism.
Yeah. All right. So we got to come up with something else, that's for sure. And I don't want to see this closed and replaced by housing. I want to see this going with some form of we need the tourists to come to Marineland, and we need to have it in an amusement park. It's got to be.
Yeah, I hope City Council really works for that.
Yeah. All right, and I think we can leave it there and say goodbye to everybody, and hope everybody has a great day. And I guess we're going to be seeing a lot of south of the border news in the next few weeks as the Democrats figure out who they're going with.
Yes, and have a good day, Niagara, and we'll see you later.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.